Welcome to episode 77 of the Peak Performance Podcast by Brad Young. In this candid investigation, we pull back the curtain on one of Hollywood's most carefully guarded secrets, exactly how A-list actors achieve those jaw-dropping physical transformations that seem to defy human biology. We're diving deep into the good, the bad, and the ugly truth about what it really takes to look like a superhero on screen. The Hollywood transformation timeline. When you see an actor go from average physique to absolutely shredded in what seems like mere months, you're witnessing something that defies conventional fitness wisdom. Chris Hemsworth didn't wake up looking like Thor. Christian Bale's transformation between films has become legendary, but here's what most people don't understand. These transformations typically happen in 12 to 16 week windows, sometimes even shorter. That's not just aggressive, it's practically superhuman by normal standards. The timeline itself reveals the first truth about Hollywood transformations. They're not sustainable, and they're not meant to be. These actors are preparing for a specific shoot date, a specific scene, sometimes even a specific shot. They're peaking their physiology like a bodybuilder preparing for competition day. What you see on screen represents maybe 2 to 4 weeks of absolute peak condition, not a year round lifestyle. Understanding this timeline is crucial because it sets the stage for everything else we're about to discuss. Most civilian fitness enthusiasts operate under the assumption that slow and steady wins the race and for long term health. But that's absolutely true. But Hollywood operates under different rules entirely. When millions of dollars are riding on an actor's appearance, when shooting schedules are locked in months in advance, when insurance companies and studios have invested massive resources into a production, the calculus changes completely. The question shifts from what's healthiest to what's possible. And that shift opens doors that most people never even knew existed. The average person trying to get in shape has one trainer, maybe a gym membership, and hopefully some decent nutrition knowledge. A Hollywood actor preparing for a major role has an entire team: a strength coach, a nutritionist, a cardio specialist, a recovery therapist, a meal prep service, and often a medical doctor monitoring their blood work weekly. They're essentially operating as a professional athlete for that transformation period, except they're optimizing for appearance rather than performance. That distinction matters more than you might think. The good: world class training and nutrition. Let's start with the legitimate, above board methods that produce real results. Hollywood actors have access to the absolute best training minds in the world. We're talking about coaches who've worked with Olympic athletes, professional bodybuilders, and special forces operators. These aren't your average personal trainers reading routines from a certification manual. These are biomechanical specialists who understand muscle fiber recruitment, periodization, and exactly how to stimulate maximum hypertrophy in minimum time. The training protocols these actors follow are brutally efficient. Think 2-a-day sessions, 6 days a week. Morning sessions focused on heavy compound movements, squats, deadlifts, bench presses, overhead presses, designed to trigger maximum hormonal response and build foundational strength. Evening sessions targeting specific muscle groups that need extra attention, often incorporating advanced techniques like drop sets, supersets, and time under tension protocols that would make most gym goers quit after the first set. But here's what separates Hollywood transformations from typical gym progress. So, the precision of the programming. Every single workout is logged, analyzed, and adjusted. If an actor's strength stalls on a particular lift, the program changes immediately. If recovery markers show elevated cortisol, training volume gets reduced before overtraining sets in. This isn't guesswork, it's exercise science applied with surgical precision. Most people train with a hope and pray approach. Hollywood operates with data driven certainty. Then there's the nutrition component, which might actually be more important than the training itself. These actors aren't just eating clean, they're following macro precise meal plans designed to the gram. Protein intake often exceeds 2 grams per pound of body weight. Carbohydrates are timed strategically around training sessions to maximize glycogen uptake and minimize fat storage. Even hydration is calculated based on body weight, training volume, and even the humidity of the shooting location. Every single calorie serves a specific purpose. There's no mindless snacking, no cheat meals, no dietary mistakes. It's nutritional perfection for 12 to 16 weeks straight. The support infrastructure 24/7. Professional support, live-in chefs preparing every meal, on-call massage therapists, sleep specialists optimizing recovery, with trainers available whenever needed, medical monitoring, weekly comprehensive blood work, hormone panel analysis, body composition tracking, real-time adjustment protocols, financial freedom, no job stress during training, no financial worries, and every resource immediately available. Single focus on transformation. This infrastructure advantage cannot be overstated. When Hugh Jackman prepared to play Wolverine, he didn't have to worry about going to work, paying bills, or any of the normal life stresses that drain your willpower and recovery capacity. His entire existence revolved around training, eating, and sleeping. That's a luxury that produces results simply through the elimination of obstacles that plague normal people trying to get fit while juggling careers, families, and financial pressures. The dehydration protocol. Now we start venturing into territory that's less comfortable to discuss, but absolutely essential to understanding Hollywood transformations. Ever notice how actors in shirtless scenes look impossibly shredded, with veins popping and muscle definition that seems almost unreal? That's because it is unreal, or at least it's not sustainable. What you're seeing is the result of strategic dehydration, a practice borrowed directly from bodybuilding competition prep. In the 24 to 48 hours before shooting a shirtless scene, actors undergo a calculated water manipulation protocol. They spend weeks hydrating at extremely high levels, sometimes drinking 2 gallons of water daily, to teach their bodies to flush water rapidly. Then, in the final days before the shoot, they dramatically cut water intake while simultaneously depleting glycogen through training and carbohydrate restriction. The result? Subcutaneous water gets shed from beneath the skin, making every muscle fiber visible and creating that shrink-wrapped appearance that photographs so dramatically. Some actors take this even further, incorporating diuretics, substances that force the kidneys to excrete more water. We're not talking about dangerous prescription diuretics necessarily, though those get used too. Even natural diuretics like dandelion root extract or specialized herbal formulations can produce significant water loss. The morning of the shoot might involve additional tactics. No water intake, working out immediately before the scene to create a pump, sometimes even spitting into a cup to remove every last bit of moisture from the body. Here's the ugly truth. This is extremely uncomfortable and potentially dangerous. Severe dehydration affects cognitive function, mood, and can stress the cardiovascular system. Actors often report feeling foggy, irritable, and physically weak during these final prep days. But it works. The visual difference between a hydrated, healthy actor and a depleted, dehydrated one can be the difference between looking fit and looking absolutely superhuman. And when the shot is done, they rehydrate immediately, often gaining back 10 to 15 pounds of water weight within 24 hours. That's why actors can look so dramatically different between public appearances. Performance enhancing drugs, the elephant in the room. Now we arrive at the conversation nobody wants to have publicly, but everyone whispers about privately: anabolic steroids and performance enhancing drugs. Let's be absolutely clear from the start. Not every Hollywood transformation involves drugs. Some actors achieve remarkable results through sheer dedication, genetic gifts, and the world-class support system we've already discussed. But to pretend that pharmaceutical enhancement isn't a significant part of many Hollywood transformations would be naive and dishonest. The simple reality is this: when an actor needs to gain 20 to 30 pounds of lean muscle in 3 months while simultaneously losing body fat, they're attempting something that exceeds natural human physiology. The body doesn't want to build muscle and burn fat simultaneously. These are contradictory metabolic states. Natural testosterone production limits how quickly muscle can be synthesized. Recovery capacity limits training frequency and intensity, but introduce exogenous hormones, and these limitations get dramatically reduced or eliminated entirely. Testosterone is the foundation. Many actors who go on record about their transformations carefully describe doctor supervised hormone optimization or testosterone replacement therapy. These terms can mean many things, from genuinely therapeutic doses for someone with clinically low testosterone to doses that far exceed natural production. A natural male produces roughly 50 to 100 milligrams of testosterone per week. Therapeutic TRT might provide 100 to 200 milligrams weekly, but a transformation cycle might involve 500 milligrams or more, 5 to 10 times natural production. Beyond basic testosterone, the enhancement spectrum gets more complex. Trenbolone, a veterinary steroid never approved for human use, is nonetheless widely regarded in bodybuilding circles as one of the most powerful muscle building compounds available. Growth hormone, or HGH, gets stacked with testosterone to enhance fat loss while preserving muscle. Insulin gets used to shuttle nutrients into muscles more efficiently. Selective androgen receptor modulators, or SARMs, provide targeted anabolic effects with supposedly fewer side effects. And then there are the cutting agents: clenbuterol for fat loss, T3 for metabolic enhancement, and various other compounds that transform the human body into a more efficient muscle building, fat burning machine. The protocols themselves are sophisticated, often designed by doctors or specialists who understand endocrinology, pharmacology, and exactly how to manipulate these substances for maximum effect with minimized risk. We're not talking about some gym bro taking random pills. We're talking about blood work monitored, carefully calculated pharmaceutical interventions that get adjusted weekly based on biomarkers. Does that make it safer? Marginally, perhaps. Does it make it risk free? Absolutely not. The medical supervision advantage: baseline assessment, comprehensive health screening, including cardiac, hepatic, and renal function testing before any intervention begins. Protocol design: customized pharmaceutical protocols based on individual physiology, goals, timeline, and risk tolerance. Ongoing monitoring: weekly blood work tracking, hormone levels, liver enzymes, lipid panels, and other health markers. Real time adjustments: immediate protocol modifications based on biomarker feedback to maximize results while managing risk. Post cycle recovery: carefully structured protocols to restore natural hormone production and maintain health post transformation. What separates Hollywood drug use from typical underground steroid use is this medical oversight. Most people who experiment with performance enhancing drugs do so without any professional guidance, buying compounds of questionable purity from unregulated sources, following advice from internet forums, and never checking blood work. Hollywood actors might be using similar compounds, but they're doing so under medical supervision with pharmaceutical grade products and continuous health monitoring. That doesn't eliminate risk, but it substantially reduces it compared to the typical approach. The health costs nobody discusses. Let's talk about what these transformations actually cost in terms of health, because the bill comes due eventually. The cardiovascular system takes enormous stress during these aggressive transformation protocols. High dose anabolic steroids negatively impact cholesterol profiles, often dramatically lowering HDL, good cholesterol, while raising LDL, bad cholesterol, and triglycerides. This creates an atherogenic profile that accelerates arterial plaque formation. Young men who spend months cycling steroids for film roles may be developing cardiovascular disease that won't manifest until decades later. The endocrine system suffers profoundly. When you flood your body with exogenous hormones, your natural production shuts down. The testes atrophy. The hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis suppresses. After the transformation is complete and the drug protocols end, many actors face months of feeling depleted, depressed, and hormonally crashed while their bodies struggle to restart natural testosterone production. Some never fully recover, requiring lifetime testosterone replacement therapy. They've essentially traded temporary superhero aesthetics for permanent hormonal dysfunction. The psychological toll deserves attention too. The mood swings associated with hormonal manipulation can be severe. High testosterone and trenbolone are notorious for causing anxiety, aggression, and even paranoia. When the cycle ends and hormones crash, depression often follows. And beyond the direct drug effects, there's the psychological pressure of maintaining an impossible standard. Actors who've achieved these transformations often describe feeling trapped. Audiences now expect them to look superhuman for every role, creating a cycle of repeated pharmaceutical interventions that becomes harder to escape with each passing year. Then there are the less discussed, but equally real impacts on organ health. The liver processes these exogenous hormones, and oral anabolic steroids in particular can cause hepatotoxicity. The kidneys work overtime filtering increased metabolic waste products from rapid muscle growth. Blood pressure often spikes on cycle, stressing the cardiovascular system. Gynecomastia, the development of breast tissue in men due to estrogen conversion, requires either pharmaceutical intervention with aromatase inhibitors or sometimes even surgical correction. These aren't minor side effects. They're significant health complications that require ongoing management. The nutritional extreme, eating for transformation. We touched on nutrition earlier, but we need to go deeper into just how extreme the dietary protocols become during Hollywood transformations. We're not talking about generally eating healthy. We're talking about nutritional regimens that border on eating disorders where every gram of macronutrients gets weighed, every meal gets timed precisely, and any deviation from the plan creates anxiety and guilt. During bulking phases, actors might consume 4,000 to 6,000 calories daily, eating every 2 to 3 hours to maintain constant nutrient flow. That means waking up in the middle of the night for a protein shake. That means carrying Tupperware containers everywhere. That means social isolation because you can't eat at restaurants or attend normal meals with friends and family. The sheer logistics of eating that much clean food becomes a full-time job. Imagine choking down your sixth chicken breast of the day when you're not even hungry, forcing it down because the meal plan says it's time to eat. The cutting phases get even more brutal. Calories might drop to 1,500 to 2,000 daily while maintaining intense training. Hunger becomes a constant companion. Brain fog sets in as carbohydrates get restricted to minimal levels. Social situations become minefields of temptation. And this isn't for a week or two, it's for months on end. The mental fortitude required to maintain this level of dietary restriction while training intensely and managing the stress of a major film production is genuinely remarkable. Supplement stacks add another layer of complexity. Beyond basic protein powders and multivitamins, transformation protocols often include branched chain amino acids, creatine, beta alanine, citrulline, glutamine, omega 3 fatty acids, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, and various herbal extracts purported to enhance performance or recovery. Some actors report taking 30 to 40 pills daily, consuming supplements before training, during training, after training, before bed, and first thing upon waking. The supplement industry loves Hollywood transformations because actors become walking advertisements for the idea that you need pharmaceutical grade supplementation to achieve elite results. Food quality reaches obsessive levels too. We're not just talking organic, we're talking grass fed, pasture raised, wild caught, non GMO, pesticide free perfection. The vegetables get sourced from specific farms known for nutrient density. The water gets filtered and remineralized. Even the salt gets selected for trace mineral content. Is this level of optimization necessary? Probably not. Does it matter when you're already doing everything else perfectly? Maybe 1%. But in Hollywood, where millions of dollars rest on appearance, that 1% gets pursued with religious fervor. The genetic lottery. Here's an uncomfortable truth that often gets ignored in discussions of Hollywood transformations. Genetics matter enormously. Some actors respond incredibly well to training stimulus, gaining muscle easily and losing fat readily. Others have naturally broad shoulders, narrow waists, and muscle insertions that create aesthetic proportions from birth. Chris Hemsworth isn't just the product of hard work. He's a genetic specimen who started with a foundation that most men could never achieve regardless of their effort. Muscle fiber type distribution plays a huge role. People with higher percentages of type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers build muscle more easily and achieve the dense, full look that cameras love. Insulin sensitivity determines how efficiently someone can partition nutrients toward muscle versus fat. Myostatin levels, the protein that limits muscle growth, vary substantially between individuals, with some people naturally having lower myostatin and correspondingly greater growth potential. Natural testosterone levels matter too. The normal range for men is enormous. Anywhere from 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter can be considered normal. A man naturally sitting at 900 will build muscle dramatically more easily than one sitting at 350, even if both are technically in the normal range. And some actors just got lucky with their genetic hormone profiles, starting with a significant advantage before any pharmaceutical intervention. And this genetic reality means that not every actor can achieve every look, regardless of how hard they work or what substances they use. Some guys will never have the massive frame of a Dwayne Johnson. Some will never achieve the shredded definition of a Brad Pitt in Fight Club. The smart ones work with their genetics rather than against them, finding roles that suit their natural potential. The desperate ones push harder with drugs and training, often achieving less impressive results with more health consequences than their genetically gifted peers who took a more moderate approach. The role of photographic enhancement. Before we give too much credit to training, drugs, and nutrition, we need to acknowledge the enormous role that cameras, lighting, and digital enhancement play in Hollywood transformations. What you see on screen has been optimized through multiple layers of technical manipulation. Professional cinematographers understand exactly how to light a physique to maximize muscle definition. Low angle lighting creates shadows that enhance muscle separation. Strategic camera angles make shoulders look broader, waists look narrower, and muscles look larger. Then there's the pump, that temporary muscle fullness that occurs immediately after training. Many shirtless scenes get filmed right after the actor does a workout. They might bang out 50 push-ups immediately before the camera rolls, flooding their muscles with blood and creating enhanced size and vascularity that lasts for 20 to 30 minutes. What you're seeing isn't their normal state. It's their absolute peak pump under perfect conditions. Digital enhancement has become increasingly sophisticated too. Color grading can enhance muscle definition by increasing contrast. Digital artists can literally paint abs onto someone through post-production manipulation. They can enhance vascularity, remove unwanted shadows, and sculpt physiques in ways that blur the line between reality and digital creation. Some of what you see on screen is legitimate physical transformation, but some is movie making magic. This technical enhancement creates unrealistic expectations for regular people. When someone says they want to look like a particular actor in a particular film, they're aspiring towards something that doesn't actually exist in real life. They're chasing a combination of peak physical condition, perfect lighting, optimal pump, strategic camera work, and digital enhancement. Even the actor himself doesn't look like that in normal life. This gap between screen appearance and reality causes immeasurable frustration and fuels the market for extreme transformation methods and questionable supplements. The post-transformation rebound. Peak condition. The brief period during filming where everything comes together perfectly. Immediate rehydration. Water weight returns rapidly after shoot-ins, often 10 to 15 pounds overnight. Dietary relaxation. Months of restriction end, often leading to overeating and rapid fat gain. Hormonal crash. If drugs were involved, natural production shutdown causes energy and mood collapse. New baseline. Eventually stabilizing at a physique that's fit but nothing like peak condition. What happens after the cameras stop rolling rarely gets discussed, but it's crucial for understanding the reality of Hollywood transformations. That superhero physique, it typically lasts for the duration of filming and maybe a few weeks of promotional appearances, then it's gone. Actors often gain back 20 to 30 pounds in the months following a transformation, and much of that regained weight is fat, not muscle. The rebound effect is real and often dramatic. This happens for several reasons. First, the physical and psychological restriction creates enormous pent-up desire to eat normally again. When the diet finally ends, many actors experience periods of disordered eating, swinging between their normal appetites and the months of restriction they just endured. Second, if performance enhancing drugs were involved, the hormonal crash that follows cessation often brings depression, fatigue, and metabolic slowdown that makes weight gain almost inevitable. Third, the training intensity that's sustainable for 12 to 16 weeks with a specific goal isn't sustainable indefinitely. Actors need to scale back volume and intensity to avoid burnout and injury. Female transformations, different pressures, similar methods. While much of the public discussion focuses on male transformations, female actors face their own intense pressures to achieve specific physiques on demanding timelines. The methods differ somewhat due to physiological differences, but the underlying strategies remain similar. Aggressive training, precision nutrition, and in some cases, pharmaceutical enhancement. What changes is the specific goal and the particular compounds chosen to achieve it. Female actors often face contradictory demands. They need to be lean enough to appear toned and fit on camera, but not so lean that they lose the feminine curves that Hollywood traditionally favors. This requires careful manipulation of body fat levels and muscle development in specific areas. The glutes and legs might be developed through heavy training, while the shoulders and arms remain smaller to maintain a particular aesthetic. This selective hypertrophy requires sophisticated programming that targets certain muscle groups while minimizing growth in others. The hormonal landscape differs dramatically for women. Natural testosterone levels are much lower, which means muscle building happens more slowly. Women who pursue aggressive transformations sometimes use testosterone or other androgens, but the doses must be carefully controlled to avoid masculinizing side effects like voice deepening, facial hair growth, or clitoral enlargement. More commonly, female actors might use compounds like Anavar, oxandrolone, considered one of the milder anabolic steroids with lower androgenic effects, or selective androgen receptor modulators designed to provide muscle building benefits with reduced side effects. Growth hormone and thyroid hormones see significant use in female transformations. HGH helps maintain muscle while promoting fat loss without the masculinizing effects of testosterone. T3 or T4 thyroid supplementation accelerates metabolic rate, making fat loss easier during aggressive cutting phases. Clenbuterol, though not approved for human use in the United States, reportedly sees widespread use for its fat-burning and muscle-preserving properties. And then there are the cocktails of peptides, fragments of growth hormone, and related compounds that promise specific effects with supposedly better side effect profiles. Female actors also face unique pressures around menstruation and hormonal cycling. Extreme leanness can disrupt menstrual cycles, potentially causing amenorrhea, the complete cessation of periods. This is a clear sign that body fat has dropped below healthy levels and hormonal function is compromised. Some female actors and athletes use hormonal birth control to manage or suppress menstruation during intense training blocks, though this adds another layer of hormonal manipulation to an already complex situation. The long-term health implications of repeatedly pushing female physiology to these extremes remain understudied and concerning. The economic reality: money makes transformation possible. We cannot overstate how much the financial resources available to Hollywood actors enable their transformations. When people look at these physiques and wonder why they can't achieve similar results despite working hard at the gym, money is often the missing variable. Let's break down the actual costs involved in a Hollywood-level transformation, because the numbers are staggering. World-class personal training runs $150 to $500 per hour. At 2 sessions daily, 6 days a week for 16 weeks, that's 192 training sessions. Even at the low end, that's $28,800 just for training, and that's before you factor in nutritionists, physical therapists, massage therapists, and other specialists. A comprehensive support team for a transformation might easily cost $100,000 to $200,000 for the full training block. That's more than most people earn in multiple years, spent entirely on getting one person in shape for a few months. Food costs escalate quickly too when you're eating 6,000 calories daily of organic, grass-fed, wild-caught perfection. Premium protein sources, grass-fed beef, wild salmon, pasture-raised chicken, can run $15 to $30 per pound. Fresh organic produce, supplements, and specialty ingredients add up. A transformation diet might cost $500 to $1,000 weekly just for groceries and supplements. Over 16 weeks, that's another $8,000 to $16,000, and many actors aren't shopping and cooking themselves. They're paying meal prep services or private chefs, which doubles or triples these costs. Medical oversight and testing add thousands more. Comprehensive blood work panels every week might run $300 to $500 each. Consultation with endocrinologists, sports medicine doctors, and other specialists charges premium rates. If performance-enhancing drugs are involved, pharmaceutical-grade compounds purchased through legitimate medical channels cost significantly more than underground alternatives. The total medical and pharmaceutical costs for a supervised transformation protocol could easily reach $10,000 to $30,000. Perhaps most valuable is the opportunity cost, the ability to focus entirely on training without worrying about earning money during the transformation period. A regular person needs to maintain their job while trying to transform their physique. They train around work schedules, eat whatever is convenient, and deal with occupational stress that interferes with recovery. A Hollywood actor during transformation mode has one job: get in shape. That singular focus, freed from financial stress, accelerates results dramatically. You can't put a price on that advantage, though if you could, it might be the most valuable element of all. The mental game. Psychological fortitude required. Physical transformations are ultimately psychological challenges. The actual mechanics of losing fat and building muscle are well understood. What separates those who achieve dramatic transformations from those who fail isn't knowledge, it's mental strength. Hollywood actors demonstrate remarkable psychological resilience during these transformation periods, and understanding the mental strategies they employ offers valuable insights regardless of whether you ever plan to pursue such extreme methods. First, there's the power of external motivation. When millions of dollars, your professional reputation, and potentially your entire career trajectory depend on how you look shirtless in a specific scene, motivation becomes almost irrelevant. You simply do what's required. Most people fail at transformations because the consequences of failure are minimal. Miss a workout? No big deal. Cheat on your diet? Nobody notices. But when Christopher Pratt transformed from Andy Dwyer to Star-Lord, the consequences of failure were enormous. That external pressure, while stressful, provides a forcing function that overcomes the normal human tendency toward comfort and laziness. Visualization and mental rehearsal play huge roles. Many actors describe repeatedly visualizing themselves in key scenes, imagining how they'll look on screen, and using that vision to power through difficult training sessions or resist dietary temptation. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a well-established psychological technique that athletes use to enhance performance. By repeatedly mentally rehearsing success, you create neural patterns that make the actual execution easier when the time comes. Pain tolerance develops and expands during extreme transformations. The discomfort of intense training, constant hunger during cuts, or the nausea of forcing down food during bulks becomes normalized. What would seem unbearable to a normal person becomes just another day for someone deep in transformation mode. This adaptation happens gradually. Each day you push a little harder, tolerate a little more discomfort, and your baseline for what feels acceptable shifts. By week 12 of a 16-week transformation, training sessions that would have seemed impossible at week 1 feel routine. There's also the psychological momentum that builds from seeing results. When you're training optimally with world-class coaching and nutrition, results come quickly. Every week brings visible progress, new muscle definition, strength gains, decreasing body fat. This positive feedback loop provides enormous motivation to continue. Contrast that with the typical gym goer who trains inconsistently with mediocre programming and diet, seeing minimal results month after month. The lack of visible progress saps motivation, creating a negative spiral that leads to eventual abandonment of fitness goals. Hollywood transformations work partly because the methods are so effective that results reinforce continued effort. The industry secret: muscle memory and multiple transformations. Here's something that makes repeat Hollywood transformations much easier than first time efforts: muscle memory. When someone builds muscle and then loses it, the nuclei that were added to muscle cells during the growth phase remain. These extra nuclei make regaining that muscle dramatically faster and easier than building it originally. This means an actor who's done one major transformation has a biological advantage for every subsequent transformation. Chris Hemsworth didn't start from scratch for every Thor movie. His body had already been there before. Even if he lost muscle in the off season, the cellular machinery for rapid regrowth remained. What might take a first timer 16 weeks of brutal effort might take a repeat transformer only 8 to 10 weeks. This is why you'll sometimes see actors gain 20 pounds of muscle in seemingly impossible time frames. They're not building new muscle from scratch, they're reclaiming muscle they previously had. This muscle memory phenomenon also explains why some actors can repeatedly yo yo between different physiques for different roles without completely destroying their health. The metabolic and hormonal stress of continually building and losing muscle is still significant, but it's less severe than constantly pushing into new territory. An actor who's established a certain level of muscularity can drop down for roles requiring a leaner look, then rebuild quickly when needed, creating the illusion of supernatural transformation abilities. The industry has figured this out, and it shapes casting decisions and shooting schedules. Once an actor has established themselves as capable of achieving a particular physique, they become valuable for roles requiring that look. Studios will sometimes schedule multiple projects requiring similar physiques close together to capitalize on an actor's peak condition. This is why you'll see action movie stars cluster similar roles within a year or two. They're maximizing the return on their transformation investment while their bodies are already adapted to maintaining that condition. The comparison between actors and natural bodybuilders. Natural bodybuilders compete regularly with drug testing, build muscle slowly over years, maintain year round conditioning, optimize for actual strength and performance, accept physical limitations, rarely earn significant income from physique. Hollywood actors. No testing protocols, achieve rapid transformations in months, only maintain peak briefly for filming, optimize purely for appearance, push past natural limits with medical support, earn millions from their physiques. The comparison between Hollywood transformations and natural bodybuilding reveals interesting differences in approach and incentives. Natural bodybuilders, those who compete in drug tested federations and genuinely remain drug free, spend years building muscle slowly within natural physiological limits. They accept that progress will be incremental, that their maximum potential is genetically determined, and that they'll never achieve the size or conditioning of enhanced competitors. Yet they continue because they value the sport itself, the challenge of maximizing natural potential, or the principle of competing fairly. Hollywood actors face completely different incentives. They're not competing in tested events. They don't care about sports ethics or fair competition. They're being paid millions of dollars to look a specific way on a specific timeline. The question isn't what's natural, but what's effective and manageable. If pharmaceutical intervention can achieve in months what would take years naturally, or achieve looks that natural physiology can't produce at all, and medical supervision can manage the risks, the decision becomes purely pragmatic from the actor's perspective. What regular people can actually learn. After examining all the extreme methods, medical interventions, and resource advantages that enable Hollywood transformations, what can regular people actually apply to their own fitness journeys? Surprisingly, quite a bit, as long as we focus on principles rather than trying to replicate the entire system. First, the value of structure and programming cannot be overstated. You don't need a world-class coach costing thousands weekly, but you do need an actual plan beyond randomly showing up at the gym. Find a legitimate program designed by someone with credentials, follow it consistently for months, and track your progress. The specific program matters less than having one and sticking to it. Hollywood transformations work partly because every single workout is planned and executed with purpose. Regular people can capture a significant portion of that benefit simply by replacing randomness with structure. Nutrition precision, while impossible to match perfectly in regular life, can be substantially improved without becoming obsessive. You don't need to weigh every gram of food, but you should probably know approximately how much protein, carbohydrate, and fat you're consuming daily. You don't need pharmaceutical grade organic perfection for every meal, but you should prioritize whole foods over processed garbage most of the time. The gap between a random diet and a pretty good diet is enormous, and closing that gap requires only modest effort, not Hollywood resources. Recovery deserves far more attention than most people give it. You won't have massage therapists on call or sleep specialists optimizing your bedroom, but you can probably sleep 7 to 8 hours nightly, manage stress somewhat, and avoid completely wrecking your recovery with alcohol and late nights. Recovery is where then the actual adaptation happens. Training merely provides the stimulus. Hollywood understands this and invests heavily in recovery. Regular people mostly ignore it, then wonder why they're not making progress despite training hard. Perhaps most importantly, realistic expectations matter enormously. Understanding that Hollywood transformations represent the absolute upper bounds of what's possible with unlimited resources, medical supervision, and often pharmaceutical enhancement should recalibrate what you expect from yourself. If you're training 3 to 4 times weekly with decent nutrition and no drugs, you will not look like Thor. You won't even look particularly close, but you can look dramatically better than you do now. You can be strong, healthy, and athletic. You can be in the top 10 or 20% of the population for your age. That's actually an impressive achievement. It just doesn't look impressive compared to enhanced Hollywood transformations. The psychological principles absolutely transfer. You can create external accountability by hiring a coach, training with a partner, or signing up for an event that forces preparation. You can use visualization and mental rehearsal to strengthen commitment. You can gradually expand your tolerance for discomfort through progressive challenge. You can create momentum through visible progress. These mental tools work regardless of resources, and they're probably more important than any specific training program or nutrition protocol. The ethical questions we should be asking. As we wrap up this deep dive into Hollywood transformations, we need to address the ethical implications of this entire system. When actors achieve superhuman physiques through methods that regular people can't access or safely replicate, and then these images get broadcast to millions of viewers who internalize them as normal or achievable standards, we create a culture-wide distortion around body image and fitness that has real consequences. Young men increasingly suffer from body dysmorphia, feeling inadequate because they don't look like Marvel superheroes. Young women develop eating disorders chasing standards of simultaneous leanness and curviness that require professional intervention to achieve. The fitness industry profits from this gap between reality and aspiration, selling supplements, programs, and memberships by implying that these Hollywood physiques are just hard work away, when in reality they're often pharmaceutical intervention away. Should actors be more transparent about the methods they use? There's an argument for honesty. If performance enhancing drugs played a role, say so, rather than attributing results to chicken breasts and hard work, which creates false hope and dangerous experimentation. But there are counter arguments too. Actors fear legal implications of admitting illegal drug use. Studios worry about damaging franchises if audiences learn their heroes weren't achieved naturally. And personal medical decisions deserve some privacy, even for public figures. Perhaps the responsibility lies more with media literacy and education. If audiences understood that what they see on screen represents peak conditioning maintained briefly, optimal lighting and camera work, digital enhancement, and often pharmaceutical intervention, they might develop more realistic expectations for their own bodies. If young people learned about the actual costs, financial, physical, and psychological of these transformations, they might be less likely to attempt dangerous shortcuts or develop self-image issues around unattainable standards. The medical establishment bears some responsibility too. When doctors prescribe performance-enhancing drugs for aesthetic purposes to wealthy clients, they're operating in a gray area between legitimate hormone optimization and enabling vanity-driven drug use. The long-term population-level health effects of normalizing hormone manipulation for non-medical purposes remain unknown, but there's reason for concern. Are we creating a two-tier system where wealthy individuals can purchase enhanced bodies while everyone else struggles with natural limitations? The final word: reality, aspiration, and your own peak performance. So, where does all of this leave us? After pulling back the curtain on Hollywood transformations, examining the good, the bad, and the ugly, what should you actually do with this information? The answer depends on your goals, values, and willingness to accept various trade offs. If you're simply trying to look better, feel healthier, and improve your fitness, you can safely ignore almost everything about Hollywood methods. Focus on basics, structured training, 3 to 5 times weekly, adequate protein intake, sufficient sleep, stress management, and patience. These fundamentals will transform your physique over months and years into something dramatically better than where you started. You'll never look like Captain America, but you'll look better than 90% of your peers. And you'll do it without sacrificing health, spending a fortune, or compromising your ethics. If you're competitive and want to push boundaries, there are ethical ways to do so within natural limitations. Natural bodybuilding federations exist for people who want to test their genetic potential. You can hire coaches, dial in nutrition, and structure training aggressively without crossing into pharmaceutical enhancement. The results will be slower and less dramatic, but they'll be sustainable, legal, and yours to be proud of. Except that some physiques aren't accessible naturally, and find satisfaction in maximizing what is possible within your principles. If you're considering pharmaceutical routes, at minimum do it with medical supervision, comprehensive blood work monitoring, and full awareness of the risks you're accepting. Don't buy underground compounds of unknown purity from internet sources. Don't follow form advice from anonymous strangers. If you can't afford or access legitimate medical oversight, you cannot afford or access safe performance enhancement. The health risks of unsupervised drug use are real, permanent, and potentially deadly. Short-term aesthetic gains aren't worth long-term health destruction. Most importantly, recognize that your worth as a human being has nothing to do with your resemblance to Hollywood actors. These transformations serve a purpose. They make movies more visually compelling and help actors embody larger-than-life characters. But they're art direction, not life goals. You're not failing if you don't look like a Marvel character. You're succeeding if you're healthier, stronger, and more capable than you were a year ago. Progress, not perfection. Improvement, not comparison. Your journey, not anyone else's. The peak performance mindset that I teach throughout this podcast isn't about extreme physical transformation. It's about optimizing your actual life for sustainable excellence across all domains: physical, mental, professional, and personal. Hollywood transformations represent a different philosophy entirely. Maximum aesthetic impact achieved through maximum resource deployment in minimum time. Consequences be damned. That works for making movies. It doesn't work for making a life. Take what serves you from Hollywood methods: the structure, the precision, the psychological strategies, the understanding that significant change requires significant commitment. Leave behind what doesn't: the pharmaceutical shortcuts, the unsustainable extremes, the health sacrifices, and the unrealistic comparison points. Your peak performance looks different from Chris Hemsworth's. And that's not just okay, it's the whole point. You're optimizing for your life, not for a shirtless scene in a billion-dollar movie. Keep that perspective, train smart, eat well, recover properly, and you'll become your own kind of superhero. Real, sustainable, and genuinely healthy. It's peak performance that actually matters.